Adoptive son exposed his mother's secret, a heartwarming tale of 9.5 million Reais revealed. Ethan couldn't believe his eyes. Rummaging through the disheveled kitchen drawer, he uncovered a bank statement that illuminated his world in a blaze of confusion and shock. 2 million. It felt surreal, a treasure hidden beneath mundane utensils and expired coupons. How could this be? His heart raced, pounding like thunder in a storm, as he desperately clutched the paper, grappling with a whirlwind of emotions. For as long as he could remember, Ethan, a 25-year-old with a heart full of dreams, had been nurtured by the unwavering love of his adoptive mother, Carol. Living in a modest home in their tight-knit Ohio suburb, their lives were woven with acts of kindness and an indomitable spirit of community. Carol had been everything for him: a teacher, a cheerleader, a guardian angel who radiated warmth and compassion, relentlessly caring for those around her. It was a vibrant tapestry they had painted together, filled with laughter and shared memories, but now, everything changed. Ethan stormed into the living room where Carol sat, her hands lovingly knitting a bright scarlet scarf. He held the statement out, eyes wide with disbelief. "Mom! What is this? You've got millions stashed away?" His voice trembled, threatening to break in disbelief. Carol looked up, surprise flitting across her face, quickly replaced by sadness and resignation as she understood he had uncovered her hidden truth. "Oh, Ethan, I never wanted you to find out this way." Her voice was thick with emotion, laden with years of sacrifice and hidden motives. Tears pricking at the corners of his eyes, he demanded to know the truth. What could possibly justify such a secret? As she spoke, a story unfolded, one of quiet determination and profound love. Over the years, Carol had saved this money not for herself but to uplift families in their neighborhood: single parents, veterans, and struggling businesses, all yearning for a spark of hope. Every hidden dollar was a tribute to the values of hard work and resilience they both cherished. "I wanted to be a light in our community," she confessed, holding his gaze like an anchor in the swirling sea of his confusion. The weight of admiration settled heavy in Ethan's chest. His mother had turned her sorrow into service, a reflection of the American dream he had always revered. But a gnawing conflict took root: should he keep her secret or expose her kindness? As days slipped away, he wrestled with this knowledge. Organizing a charity event began to bloom in his mind, a way to honor Carol's dedication while also revealing her remarkable spirit to everyone around. However, fear clung to him like ivy, a fear that by sharing Carol's story, he could risk their bond. Amidst his emotional turmoil, revelations about Carol's painful past drifted in like shadows, reminding him of sacrifices made for others that he never fully understood. This secret wasn't just hers, it intertwined with their family story, and as he pondered, the tension between loyalty and truth danced around him like smoke. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Standing at the edge of a decision that could redefine their lives, Ethan felt the gravity of his choice deepen. The question hung in the air: could he truly honor his mother's legacy without revealing her heart? The stakes were higher than ever, the community's future intertwined with their personal story. Would he step into the light and unveil the truth, or would he protect the delicate secret forged in love? The answers teetered tantalizingly close, but as the clock ticked, uncertainty only grew. What would he ultimately decide? Ethan sat on the couch, the bank statement still crumpled in his hand, the weight of his discovery pressing down on him like a heavy fog. Carol's voice echoed in his ears, her determination to help others, her heart filled with kindness. But what about his feelings? How could he reconcile his love for her with the betrayal that her hidden life seemed to signify? He felt like a ship lost at sea, navigating between two conflicting shores. Days turned into sleepless nights as Ethan pondered the best course of action. He could feel the tension in the house, a palpable distance between him and Carol. They shared so much warmth, so many laughs, but now it felt like a chasm had opened up, fueled by truths unspoken. The kitchen, once filled with the smell of homemade bread and the sound of Carol's joyous humming, now fell silent. Then, impulsively, Ethan grabbed his phone. His fingers hesitated over the keys. Should he call Scott, one of their neighbors? He often volunteered alongside Carol at the community center. Maybe Scott could help him process everything. With a few taps, the call connected. "Hey, Ethan. What's up?" Scott's cheerful voice was like a bomb, cutting through the heavy atmosphere of doubt. "Scott, can we talk?" "It's important," Ethan replied, his voice trembling with urgency. "I'll be right over," Scott said, sensing the seriousness. Within minutes, Scott arrived, his face a mix of concern and curiosity. They settled into the living room, the air thick with unsaid words. "What's going on?" Scott asked, his brow furrowing. Ethan took a deep breath, unraveling the tangled threads of emotion swirling inside him. "I found out something about my mom, something big." He paused, struggling to share the weight of his secret. "She has millions saved up. And it's not for her. She's been helping families in the neighborhood, the veterans, everyone who needs a hand." "What?" Scott's eyes widened. "That's incredible. She's a hero. Why not let everyone know?" Ethan grappled with his friend's enthusiasm. "But it's a secret. She's been doing it quietly. If I expose this, I'm afraid it'll change everything between us, and for her. I don't know if she'd want that." Scott leaned back thoughtfully. "Ethan, your mom is doing amazing things. You could set up something to highlight her work, to show the community what she's done without making her uncomfortable. Honor her while keeping her wishes in mind." The idea sparked a flicker of hope in Ethan's chest. This approach could bridge the gap. But still, uncertainty loomed like a looming thunderstorm. What if I mess it up? What if she gets upset? "Sometimes, the biggest risks lead to the greatest rewards," Scott replied firmly. "Think about it. If she's doing this out of love, isn't it more about strengthening that love than risking it?" As the two of them brainstormed, Ethan felt a fragile courage stirring within him, slowly dispelling the fog of doubt. Maybe, just maybe, there was a path forward. Later that evening, Ethan retreated to his room, still grappling with his decision. He needed to speak with Carol first, to share his plan and gauge her feelings. Would she see his intentions as genuine? He could feel the weight of her love wrapped around him, and he just wanted to make her proud, but how would he find the right words? Would he be able to pull her into the light without breaking the faith she had put in silence? Anxiety pooled in his gut as he glimpsed the bank statement again, tearing at that part of him that whispered, "This could change everything." With determination, he set his phone down, ready to face his mother. But a new surge of hesitance gripped him. Would she welcome the conversation, or would it push her further away? Just as these thoughts spiraled, a sudden knock startled him. It was Carol, her expression curious yet cautious. "Ethan? Can we talk?" And just like that, the moment of truth arrived, the chance to uncover the heart of their story and forge a new path together. What would he say? Would he have the courage to confront the truth, to reveal his intentions, and ultimately change their lives forever? Ethan's heart raced as he took in Carol's expression. The cautious curiosity on her face stirred a mix of emotions in him: love, fear, longing. He nodded slowly, inviting her to sit beside him. He could feel the weight of the conversation they'd been avoiding hanging thick in the air. "Mom," he started, his voice a little shaky. "I found something out. Something important about you." Carol's eyes narrowed with concern, the gentle smile she usually wore replaced by something closer to worry. "What is it, Ethan? You look troubled." He swallowed hard, gathering his thoughts. This was at the pivotal moment. "I found out about the money, the bank statement." The words tumbled from his mouth, each like a pebble dropped in a quiet pond, creating ripples of tension. "What do you mean?" she asked, her brow furrowing deeper. "I know you've been helping families in the neighborhood, veterans, everyone," Ethan continued, gauging her reaction. He hoped to see relief, but the tension only grew. "You've saved millions, Mom. You've been doing this quietly while others struggled. I think it's amazing." Carol's expression darkened, her mouth set in a firm line. "Ethan, you shouldn't have looked through my things. There are reasons I didn't tell you." His heart sank, a sharp pang of hurt piercing through him. "But why keep it a secret? Don't you want us to celebrate what you're doing?" "I do it because it's the right thing, not for recognition," she responded, her voice tinged with urgency. "Not everyone needs to know. I don't want to change people's perspectives of me or this community." "Change isn't always bad," Ethan argued, the frustration bubbling up. "You're trying to change lives. Why hide that? You do it out of love, Mom. You deserve to be recognized for your heart." She took a deep breath, trying to calm her racing heart. "Sometimes love means not seeking validation or attention. It's a choice I made, Ethan. Revealing it could take away from the essence of what I'm doing." He stared at her, feeling the heaviness in the room. The way they had shared laughter and meals felt distant now. "I want to help you. I was thinking maybe if we could share your story in a way that respects your wishes, it could inspire others." He rushed to explain. Carol shook her head slowly. "Ethan, you must promise me you won't do that. It's for their dignity, not for mine. If people find out, it could tarnish the spirit of giving." Silence enveloped them, each lost in their thoughts. Ethan wanted to scream in frustration, but deep down, he understood her hesitation. Carol was driven by a selfless love that had defined her all these years. But it also made him feel helpless. "I wish you could trust me with this," he finally said, his voice quieter. "I want to support you." "I know you do, sweetheart," she replied softly, tears pooling in her eyes. "But trusting means letting go of that control. It's a tough balance." He felt a sudden wave of emotion surge through him, a mixture of love and frustration spilling over. "We could make more of an impact together. I want to help you carry this burden." Carol looked at him, a flicker of hope shining through her worry-filled gaze. "What do you suggest without ruining what we've built?" Ethan took a deep breath, feeling a sense of purpose crystallizing in his mind. "We could start small. Maybe work together to set up a community event to showcase the work you've done quietly, honoring it without revealing everything." As they began to brainstorm, a new energy radiated between them. But beneath that energy, uncertainty lingered. Would they truly find a way to honor her wishes while still celebrating the goodness she brought into the world? As they charted their plans, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that this delicate balancing act would bring fresh challenges, tests that could either strengthen their bond or threaten to break it apart completely. Suddenly, as if sensing the looming storm, Carol asked quietly, "Ethan, if you thought this would change everything, are you sure you want to go through with this?" The question hung in the air like a flickering candle. Would Ethan take the plunge, knowing it could redefine the very fabric of their lives? With a quivering resolve, he replied, "I need to try, even if it means risking everything." And in that moment, as they prepared to walk a new path, both of their hearts pounded with the weight of future unknowns, shifting the ground beneath them. What would come next? Would they find a way to harmonize their dreams, or would the truth push them apart? Ethan's mind raced as he pondered the implications of their conversation. His gaze drifted to the framed photos on the wall, moments captured in time, filled with laughter and joy. But now, they felt heavy, each image a reminder of the distance that had crept in between him and his mother. "Let us not rush into anything," Carol finally said, breaking the silence, her voice a cautious whisper. "We need to think this through. What if it goes wrong? What's the worst that could happen?" Ethan shot back, a hint of frustration in his tone. "This community needs to see the love you've poured into it. They need to know you're not just the nice lady next door, but a lifeline for so many. His words hung in the air, sparking a flicker of determination in Carol's eyes. She bit her lip, her brow furrowing deeper as if weighing unseen options. After a moment, she sighed, her shoulders sagging. It's just I've protected this for so long. I'm scared of what revealing it might do. Not just for me, but for everyone else involved. Ethan reached out, placing a reassuring hand over hers. I get that, Mom. But it's not just your story anymore. It's about everyone you've helped. They deserve to be seen, too. Think about what it could mean for them. Her eyes glistened with unshed tears, and he felt her squeeze his hand tighter as if searching for strength. I know, she said quietly. But how do we share it without stripping them of their dignity? I don't want to exploit anyone. Ethan nodded, a clarity washing over him. What if we shared their stories anonymously? We could highlight the work, detail the impact, and keep their identities confidential. This way, we honor their struggles while shining a spotlight on your compassion. An idea seemed to flicker in Carol's mind. You're right, Ethan. It's about the mission, not the individual. But she hesitated, glancing away. Even that feels risky. He knew she was torn. Ethan took a deep breath and leaned in closer. How about we test the waters first? Just a small gathering, maybe some trusted friends. If we see it has potential, we'll go bigger. Together. We can strategize. Carol's lips curled slightly into a thoughtful smile. That might work. Ethan felt a rush of relief but also the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. Let us make it happen, one step at a time. They spent the next hour brainstorming ideas, pulling out old notebooks and sketches from past community events, hardly noticing the minutes that slipped by. The shared passion ignited a spark, including laughter and whispered plans that filled their home with warmth once again. Yet, as they wrapped up, a shadow crossed Carol's face. Ethan, I hope this doesn't lead to more complications than we can handle. What if people react badly? What if they try to turn this into something it's not? His heart sank at her words, but he quickly gathered the courage to reassure her. We can face this together. We have to believe that the good will shine through. It's what you've always taught me. She nodded, but there was still a flicker of doubt in her eyes. Just as he was about to suggest they get some rest, a sudden knock broke the fragile calm. It echoed through their home, loud and unexpected, sending a jolt through both of them. Who could that be? Carol's voice wavered, and a tight knot formed in Ethan's stomach. Let me check. He walked toward the door, his heart pounding. What if it was someone from the neighborhood, curious about their plans? What if trouble had already found them, looming just beyond the threshold? Taking a deep breath, he swung open the door. His eyes widened as he took in the sight before him, a figure standing there with an expression that sent chills down his spine. Ethan! The person exclaimed, urgent and desperate. You need to hear this. It's about the money. Ethan's heart raced in response, the implications of the revelation echoing ominously. What did it mean for their plans? Would everything shift again in ways they hadn't imagined? What new challenges awaited them on this unfolding journey? His breath caught in his throat as he stared at the figure on the doorstep. It was Mark, a member of the community who had often stopped by to chat and share stories. But today, his eyes were wide with an urgency that made Ethan's heart pound even harder. Ethan! You won't believe what just happened. Mark burst out, nervously glancing around as if he feared overhearing ears. I just got off the phone with Mrs. Harper. She mentioned something about funds, a lot of funds, and you need to know. Ethan was instantly on high alert. What do you mean? What funds? Listen, it's complicated, but there are rumors swirling about a significant grant that was given to the community, Mark said, his voice low, almost conspiratorial. They're saying it could be millions. Millions? Ethan echoed, stunned. The number rolled off his tongue like a dizzying riddle. What's that got to do with us? With my mom? Mark took a deep breath, lowering his voice even more. It has everything to do with Carol. She may not be as much of an underdog in this as she thinks. People are talking. And I overheard that they're discussing whether she should be the one leading the charge in how this money is used. Ethan's mind raced back to their earlier conversation. His mom was scared. Were her fears coming true? The thought sent a cold shiver down his spine. He had pushed her to stand in the light, and now it felt as if shadows were closing in. We have to talk to her, Ethan said firmly, stepping aside and motioning for Mark to come in. This changes everything. Mark nodded, urgency in his eyes, but as Ethan led him inside, the worry remained etched on his face. What if she's not ready for this? What if they misinterpret what she stands for? Before he could respond, Carol walked into the living room, her brow furrowed in confusion. What is going on? Mom, you need to hear this, Ethan said, looking between her and Mark. It's about the money, about you. The anxiety in the room thickened like fog, and Carol's eyes widened, glistening with apprehension. What money? What are you talking about? Mark cleared his throat. There's a grant for the community. Huge sums involved, and they want someone with a connection to the people, someone they trust. They're mentioning your name. A beat of silence hung in the air, punctuated only by the sound of Ethan's heart beating faster. He watched Carol's expression shift from confusion to disbelief. No. I didn't think it would come to this. I just wanted to help. Mom, this is what you've been doing. This is your chance to show them how much you care, Ethan urged, desperation creeping into his voice. But we have to decide now. Are you willing to lean into this? She swallowed hard, her eyes darting around as if searching for clarity among the swirling thoughts. Ethan could see her weighing the enormity of it all, the fears, the revelations, the community that had come to rely on her strength. I don't know if I'm ready for this kind of scrutiny, she admitted slowly, her voice trembling. Wherever this leads, we will figure it out together. You don't need to be alone in this, Ethan insisted, squeezing her hands as he had before, drawing strength from their bond. As she stood there, lost in the tangle of emotions, Ethan realized this was more than just about the money or the community. This was about revealing the heart of who Carol was and how her story intertwined with so many lives. Then, suddenly, Mark spoke up again, his voice urgent. We don't have much time. If the community hears about this and runs with it, you could be left out, or worse, misrepresented. We need to act. The uncertainty that hung in the air weighed heavily on Ethan and Carol. Would they step forward and embrace this chance, or retreat back into shadows where it felt safer? A sense of urgency quickened Ethan's pulse. They were standing at a crossroad, and whatever decision they made could change everything. Let us gather everyone. Share the truth, our truth, Ethan suggested. But we must act fast. As both of their gazes locked onto Mark's, a collective breath held onto the moment. What would the community think of Carol's story? And what would happen if this took her down a path she never anticipated? The stakes were higher than ever, and just as Carol began to speak, the phone rang ominously. The unexpected sound crackled through the tension in the room, leaving them all in suspense. Who was calling, and what news would they bring? Ethan's heart pounded in his chest as he turned to the phone, the shrill ring breaking through the thick air of uncertainty. Carol's eyes fell on the device, and he could see an array of emotions etched across her face: curiosity, fear, and a flicker of hope. Do you want me to answer it? He asked, glancing at her. The last thing he wanted was to burden his mother further, but the moment felt pivotal. Yeah, maybe it's about the grant, she replied, her voice barely a whisper. He picked up the receiver, his pulse racing as he pressed it to his ear. Hello? There was a crackle before a familiar voice came through. Ethan. It's Mrs. Harper. I hope I'm not interrupting anything. He glanced at his mom. Not at all. What is going on? Listen, dear. I just received the latest updates regarding the grant. It's all moving at lightning speed. I thought of your mother immediately. We need to rally support quickly if we want her to lead, she said, urgency seeping into her tone. Ethan felt adrenaline surge through him. When do we need to act? Soon, very soon. The community meeting is happening in just a few days. I need you and Carol to be ready to present her vision, Mrs. Harper said. You need the community behind you. If we wait any longer, well, the opportunity could slip away. They could choose someone else, someone who doesn't know the heart of this community. He glanced at Carol, whose worry had deepened, her hands trembled slightly. Okay. We'll be ready, he said, his voice steady despite the whirlwind inside him. Thank you, Mrs. Harper. We'll make this happen. As he hung up, the room simmered with intensity. The weight of the decision loomed over them, and the challenge was now clear. They want you to lead, Mom. But we have to shape the narrative. You need to tell your story. Carol's gaze dropped, almost as if she were retreating into herself. What if they don't understand? I can't just be the face of this. It feels so heavy. Ethan stepped closer, taking her hands again. But you've always been that person for this community. Remember all those nights volunteering? The lives you've touched? This is just an extension of that. You're not alone in this. He could see her struggle, a battle between desire and fear that played out behind her eyes. After what seemed like an eternity, she took a deep breath and squared her shoulders. Okay. I'll do it. We'll do it. Mark, who had been quietly waiting, nodded with a sense of approval. We'll gather the community, share how the funds can help, and what Carol's vision is for the future. This is your time to shine. The energy shifted in the room. Hope began to flicker, igniting a fire that had long remained dormant in Carol. But somewhere deep, Ethan knew that this would not just be about the grant or the funds. This was a necessary unveiling of who they all truly were beneath the surface. As they planned their approach, ideas flowed, and hope filled the spaces in between. But with every step deeper into the light, shadows from the past lurked. Ethan couldn't shake the feeling of doubt that lingered at the edges of their excitement. Mom, how do we ensure that your story won't be twisted into something isn't? He faltered, the thought hitting him hard. I don't know, Ethan, she replied, looking away. But I guess we have to be ready for anything. We can't hide anymore. The resolve in her voice gave him a shiver of anticipation mixed with fear. As they gathered their ideas, the weight of the unknown loomed. What could this new beginning hold? Just then, another notification pinged on Carol's phone, the sound cutting through the tension like a knife. Glancing at the screen, her face drained of color. It's from the committee. They want to meet with me tonight. The room fell silent, tension crackling like electricity as they stared at her. What could this sudden meeting mean for Carol? And were they ready to face whatever news awaited them? Ethan felt a tight knot forming in his stomach as he watched his mother's face. The glow from her phone illuminated the worry lines etched around her eyes, painting a picture of anxiety. Tonight? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. What do they want? Carol shook her head, her breath hitching. I don't know. But it can't be good. I thought things were moving forward. Mark stood up, his expression serious. It could be anything, but you need to go, Carol. Maybe they want to give you more information, or maybe they want to gauge your commitment. I don't feel ready for this, she admitted, her voice trembling slightly. What if I say the wrong thing? What if they don't see my vision? What if stop? Ethan reached out, squeezing her hand firmly. You've got this. You've been helping this community for years. You know them, they know you. Just speak from your heart. Carol took a deep breath, her chest rising as she tried to gather her courage. Still, doubt danced behind her eyes. What if they think I'm not worthy? What if they choose someone else after all? I can't bear another disappointment. Ethan felt frustration bubbling inside him. Mom, you have to believe in yourself. This is your moment. You deserve this chance. Is there someone else who cares for this community like you do? No, she murmured softly, almost as if she were trying to convince herself. Silence filled the room, thick like heavy fog. Carol stared at the floor, and Ethan desperately searched for something to reignite her spirit. Remember when we fixed up that community center? The way people came together? This is the same vibe. We can do this, you can do this. Mark nodded, we'll be with you every step of the way. Just think about what the grant could bring. It's not just about you, Carol, it's about everyone. With a slight quiver in her voice, Carol finally looked up. You're right. They need to know what this means. Not just for me, but for all of us. The fire in her eyes returned, small but growing. Okay. I'll go, she said, her voice stronger. In that moment, Ethan felt a swell of pride. Carol was ready to claim her place. But just as hope resurfaced, a crack appeared. But what if they push me too far? Carol whispered, dropping her gaze once more. What if they ask about Dad? Ethan's heart sank at the mention of her late husband. The shadow of his past lingered over them, a threat capable of unraveling everything. You don't have to go there unless you want to. This is about your dreams now, not his. Yet they can't seem to let go of him, she replied, vulnerable yet defiant. I want to be known for my own voice, Ethan. But what if they only see my past? Then we show them you, Mark chimed in. Your passion, your knowledge, your plans for the future. Let them see who you really are. Carol took a deep breath, a flicker of confidence returning. I'll need a plan. Maybe I can highlight the future initiatives of the grant. Exactly. Ethan said, feeling the momentum build again. And we can pull together stories from people you've impacted. Real testimonials about what you've done. They spent the next hour brainstorming ideas, and the air filled with a renewed sense of purpose. The tension in the room transformed into electrifying anticipation. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting soft shadows in their home, Carol stood taller, her fear battling against newfound resolve. Just then, another notification pinged from her phone, a message from the committee, reminding her of the meeting time. Ethan felt that same knot clench again. They had worked through their fears, yet doubts still lingered. Would they find strength together tonight? Mom, just breathe. Show them who you are, he said, wrapping his arms around her in a reassuring hug. Tomorrow, we'll see how it all unfolds, she whispered, her voice steady but uncertain. He knew they were standing at a precipice, the outcome resting on the edge of a mysterious dawn. What would happen when the night finally gave way to the meeting? Would truth and fear finally collide, unveiling everything they'd been fearing? The next day arrived cloudy, a murky sky adding weight to the air. Carol stood in front of the bathroom mirror, staring into her own reflection. She barely recognized the woman looking back at her. The lines of worry felt more prominent today, her eyes a little darker. Deep breaths didn't seem to help, and for a moment, uncertainty flooded her mind once more. Mom! Ethan called from the kitchen, his voice light as if to push away the shadows lurking in their home. You need breakfast. I'm not hungry. She shouted back, a little harsher than she intended. Guilt washed over her. She could hear Ethan moving around, likely trying to make toast and coffee. Okay, then just come for coffee. It might help you wake up. He replied cheerfully, something about his energy was contagious, coaxing a small smile from her lips. Maybe breakfast wouldn't hurt. She pulled on a cardigan, attempting to wrap the fabric tighter around her, seeking comfort in the familiar warmth. As she trudged into the kitchen, she spotted Ethan with a plate of toast, smeared with peanut butter, a splash of jelly brightening the scene. "You got seconds of nerve, but no breakfast?" He grinned, handing her a cup of coffee. The steam curled in the air, filling the narrow kitchen with a rich aroma. "I might need fortification with this," she joked, trying for humor, and it felt like magic for just a moment. A chuckle escaped Ethan, and she felt a little more grounded. "Hey, what do you think they'll ask you about?" he inquired as they settled at the table. "Do you have a list ready?" I've thought about it," she admitted. "I want to share the stories of the people I've helped. It's not just numbers, it's lives. But what if they don't care? They have to care. It's all about heart, right?" He leaned forward, an unyielding earnestness painted on his young face. It reminded her again of how essential it was for her to show who she truly was. This meeting, she realized, wasn't simply about the money. It was about purpose, her vision, a chance to lift up a community that had become her backbone over the years. A knock on the door startled them from their conversation. Mark entered with a briefcase, his usual calm demeanor slightly tinged with urgency. "Ready to go?" Carol's heart raced. Reality hit as she stole a glance at the clock. They had less than an hour before she would have to step into that meeting room. The weight of what lay ahead grew heavier on her shoulders. Ethan's expression shifted from supportive to serious, his eyes searching hers. "You really are ready for this, aren't you?" She took a deep breath. "Yes, I can do this. But it feels immense." "It is," Mark said, setting his briefcase down. "But immense can also lead to amazing things." As they stepped out into the day, Carol looked up at the sky. The clouds were rolling away, revealing soft patches of blue. She felt the burden lift slightly. Maybe the universe was giving her a sign, maybe today could be the day she finally stepped into her light. The city buzzed with energy as they made their way to the meeting, each step bringing her closer to possible transformation. Could she change the narrative surrounding her? Could she finally be seen for who she was? But then a nagging voice whispered reminders of the past, memories of judgment and the doubt that often crept in when she least expected it. What if they were right to see her as just the shadow of her husband? As they approached the building, a different kind of knot twisted in her stomach. What if they ask about Dad? She blurted out, her voice wavering. Mark placed his hand on her shoulder. "Focus on what you want to build. This is about the future, not the past." Taking one final shaky breath, Carol nodded. They entered through the main doors as Ethan squeezed her hand reassuringly. With hearts racing and hope battling anxiety, they stepped into the unknown. Would she finally let her own story unfold? Or would the echoes of her past drown out her voice once more? A drama was about to unfold. What hidden truths lingered just beneath the surface? Inside the lobby, the polished marble floors reflected Carol's anxious expression. She could hear the hum of conversation echoing against the walls, filled with business jargon and friendly laughter. But it felt alien to her, a language she hadn't spoken in so long. "Okay, breathe," she whispered to herself, her palms sweaty against the mug of coffee. It was always easier to help others. Now, she had to focus on herself, on what she believed. Mark led them through the crowd, weaving past clusters of people deep in discussion. Carol's heart thundered, drowning out the noise around her. Every familiar face reminded her of past judgments. Their eyes could pierce through her, dissecting her worth based solely on who she used to be. Suddenly, they reached their destination, a meeting room with a heavy oak door. Mark pushed it open, revealing a small group seated at a long table. Faces turned to her, some familiar, others entirely new. They were seated, ready to assess her vision and judge her worth. Her throat felt tight. "Remember your purpose," Mark whispered, a steady presence beside her. Taking a deep breath, she stepped inside. The warm light felt welcoming, even as nervous butterflies fluttered violently in her stomach. "Hi, I'm Carol," she began, trying to steady her voice. "I'm really excited to be here and share my thoughts on how we can create a more connected community." The group nodded, some scribbling notes, others leaning forward with interest. And as she spoke, she felt the weight of expectations shift slightly. She painted vivid pictures of success stories of individuals she'd helped grow and thrive. But midway through, the room shifted. One of the board members, an older man with sharp features, leaned back in his chair, arms crossed. "And what do you owe your success to, Carol?" His tone was condescending. "Wasn't it your husband's influence that got you here?" The room went silent. Carol's heart dropped. All her fears, encapsulated in one question. It struck her like a blow, and for a moment, she faltered. She could hear Ethan's worried breath behind her. "Excuse me?" she managed, her voice steadying. "This isn't about him. This is about what I can bring to the table." "Is it though? People will always associate you with him." "The numbers reflect that," he shot back, eyes narrowing. A wave of frustration washed over her, and she felt a fire ignite inside. All those years devoted to proving her capabilities suddenly coalesced into this moment. Everyone has a story. Mine is just as valid as anyone else's, with or without a spotlight. I'm here to make a change, and I'm not a reflection of anyone else. There was a slight stir in the room, murmurs of surprise rippled through the attendees. Carol felt adrenaline coursing through her veins. She was finally unveiling the truth. She was not just an extension of her late husband, she was Carol, a woman with strength, determination, and a life of her own. Mark smiled at her, and for a brief second, she stole a glance at Ethan, whose wide eyes shone with admiration. This was her moment, to articulate the narrative she had crafted in secret. As she gathered herself, ready to share more, a sudden commotion outside the room drew her attention. The door swung open, and a young woman rushed in, breathless and wild-eyed. Carol's heart sank. Did she know something? "Sorry to interrupt," the woman said, her voice laced with urgency. "But I just received some news that could change everything." Carol's breath hitched, anticipating the revelation like a freight train. What more could be lurking in the shadows of her life? Would this news derail the very foundation she was trying to build? The tension in the room shifted again, transforming her moment of empowerment into a knot of uncertainty. What could this stranger have to say that would affect her newfound path? The young woman stood there, her chest heaving as she looked at the crowd. "I'm sorry, but I couldn't wait. This is urgent. It's about the grant and your mom, Ethan." Every set of eyes turned towards Carol, a mix of curiosity and confusion swirling in the air. Carol held her breath. The moment of her trial had arrived, and there was no turning back. She couldn't help but wonder if this new news would unravel her carefully crafted purpose. "What is it?" Ethan demanded, stepping closer to his mother, his protective instincts kicking in. "It's Mrs. Harper," the woman said, her voice shaky. "She's had a stroke. She's been taken to the hospital. A lot of people are worried about the grant and about you." Carol felt the world tilt beneath her feet, the news wrapped around her heart like a vice, squeezing until she could hardly breathe. Mrs. Harper had believed in her mission and supported her all along. Is she going to be okay?" Carol whispered, fear flooding her words as she fought past the rising panic. "I don't know. They're still working on her at the hospital. But the meeting for the grant is still happening, and they need someone to take her place. They want you." The room broke into hushed discussions, the enormity of the request hung palpably in the air. Her chest tightened, the expectations were overwhelming. Ethan gripped her arm tightly and looked her straight in the eyes. "Mom, you can't let this moment slip by. This is what they've been waiting for from you. You've worked so hard, and now they need your voice more than ever. If not you, then who?" His words reverberated through her, igniting a flicker of determination. She could still feel the shadows of doubt lurking from the earlier confrontation, but this was a chance to seize the narrative and make it her own. "I understand your concerns about the past," she said, addressing the room, her voice firm despite the whirlwind of emotions. But I stand before you today not as a reflection of someone else but as a woman committed to change. I may never be able to escape my legacy as someone's wife, but I have my own story and strength, and that matters. With each word, Carol felt more grounded. She could see the board members hesitating, their expressions shifting from judgment to something softer, something resembling respect. Today could be our turning point, she added, her voice rising with passion. I want to honor the values that Mrs. Harper fought for but did so quietly. Let us shape a future where this community thrives together. The tension began to lift ever so slightly, breaths being held as reality set in. Let us do this, she proclaimed, looking at Ethan and then at Mark, whose proud smile ignited her spirit even further. Just as her words finished settling, another knock echoed at the door. It creaked open, and a familiar face entered. Scott, one of her loyal supporters from the community center. I heard what happened and came as fast as I could. The community is rallying round. Scott, we need to set things right, Carol said, taking the lump forming in her throat and channeling it into resolve. I'll step into this role, but I won't do it alone. We need everyone's support. The murmurs grew excited around the table, emboldened by her unwavering stance. We can make this about collaboration. Everyone deserves a voice, and we can build a program that reflects that. With a nod from Mark, they gathered together, ideas flowing free. Carol felt a rush of empowerment with each suggestion shaping their direction. Nothing felt insurmountable. She could practically feel Mrs. Harper's spirit encouraging her, pushing her to rise. As the meeting pressed on, ideas blossomed, merging hope for the community with respect for its history. Carol finally saw a roadmap forming before her, one where love and spirit built a new culture of connection. Finally, they concluded, a sense of warmth swirling around them as they shared a collective vision. When Carol stepped into the main room after the meeting, she felt lighter, like she had finally cast off the chains binding her to the shadows of her past. Ethan hugged her tight, tears of joy spilling down his cheeks. You did it, Mom. You were incredible. Mark joined them. I knew you had it in you. This is just the beginning. As they watched the sun peek out from behind the clouds, the warmth washed over them, promising new beginnings. Let us celebrate, Carol suggested, her heart radiating with newfound light. For Mrs. Harper, for the community and for all of us. They gathered and embraced, love flowing freely, and the world became a little brighter. Sitting together in solidarity, the journey ahead felt filled with possibilities. New horizons awaited. They were ready to step forward, hand in hand into their story of resilience, heart, and community. The adventure had only just begun. Now, this is the moment where you step in. You need to subscribe now to our channel to not miss the next exclusive stories that will inspire and uplift you. This is the moment to show your support by leaving a like to feed the algorithm. Comment below your reactions and feelings about this heartwarming ending. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Together, let us build a community of hope.